Welcome back to the Integrate Intelligently podcast. I am not Jeff Brickler. I am John Thomas from CADTALK, our marketing manager. Today, I have got our CEO, Scott Brickler, with me for a conversation that's been a long time coming. Now, Scott, I know you're on all of these podcasts, but
hmm
today we're really going to hone in on some things about CADTALK, the product, but go a little bit bigger as well. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about CADTALK and you look at our product and you look at some of the things we do with manufacturers, there's a lot about saving engineers keystrokes, but we like to talk on this podcast a little bit more about what that means. So we're going to dive into that today. Thank you so
hmm
much for taking some time to join. I guess I want to open with just that question. What does that mean to you that
hmm
CAD Talk does more than just saving engineers some keystrokes, which is important, but maybe things go a little deeper than
Yeah, I kind of go back to like the original idea, being the founder, and like this problem was scratching an itch that I had and I think we told this story on the podcast in the past, but like it was kind of like it was very much the same mindset that we talk about with engineers. Is like I had to do this job. It wasn't very fun. I wanted to figure out a way to save time on it. So it was very much what's in it for me type of situation as the engineer, which is saving engineer keystrokes, which makes a lot of sense. But as I did consulting and I used to do ERP implementations and I've worked with customers and I've seen kind of how all these systems work, like you have to, if you look at it, if you balloon out or if you like expand out beyond that, that you realize like there's a purpose behind why we do this work in the ERP based off of the engineering design. And then you look at like, well, why do we need to do it at all? And like, how does all these systems work? Okay. And then it kind of made me understand that actually the problem we're solving is so much bigger than that. All right. That is actually the easy to see, easy ROI. Like I could see it. Like this person isn't doing it anymore. There's an opportunity cost with their time and things like that. That makes sense. But if you think about how ERPs work, especially for manufacturing, okay, like everything is driven from the core bill of material that's in the ERP. So like it's all the items that are in there and the bill of material and the routings. So a lot of times when ERP is sold to manufacturers, the thing that they love about it, sometimes they're trying to fix a data issue around like accounting for things, but they're also trying to fix like a lot of times they're trying to fix scheduling problems. They can't deliver on time. Things cost way more than they're supposed to. They don't have an idea what things cost. There's like they aren't buying the right stuff at the right time. Their lead times are ballooning up. There's all of these issues that is the premise or the impetus of why they bought the ERP. And they bought the ERP on the promise that this will get solved. And of course, when they demo the ERP, all of that is solved because they are working with perfect data. Okay. So you think about it, like everything in the ERP that's like, not, I mean, almost everything, but everything meaningful, MRP, scheduling, planning, all of these things, quality, all of these things that bill of material is correct and accurate. And so it's like, if that's the core data, that's the unsexy part of the whole thing. Okay. And if that stuff is correct, ERP just provides magic. It's unbelievable. Like all the benefits you can do. I mean, that's why people are paying, 6, 7 figures for these solutions is for that promise. But then at the end of the day, they're like, okay, we're just going to like that, putting that bill of material in and making it accurate is hard. It's not fun. It's hard. Okay. And that was I didn't like doing it. That's why I wanted to save the keystrokes for myself. I did that work. Right. So, but like, because it's hard. So somebody has to know how you're going to make it. They have to basically guess at what it's going to take to do it. Which machines is going to go through. How are you going to buy? All these things have to be figured out in order for the ERP engine to run. Okay. So the problem that CADTalk was really solving was actually, how do I get that unsexy data into the system so the ERP will actually do its job, and we'll actually be able to realize all of that investment that we made in this very large thing that we bought. And if you look at it from that framing, like obviously CADTalk was very cheap. Looks like a very very low cost insurance to make sure that happens. And it also does it fast. Okay. So if you think about it from there's all different kinds of manufacturers. And I come from an engineer to order type of, or at least a partial engineer to order type of background. And one of the biggest differentiators in the marketplace for that type of manufacturer is the speed. Okay. And I think almost every manufacturer would like speed, which translates to lead time, which is how fast can I move information through a process to get a result. And at every step that something sits or a decision needs to be made, all of that increases the lead time. And to the customer, that looks like I ordered it today and I get it 200 days from now, or I get it 100 days from now, or I get it 90 days from now. And then if I look at different competitors and everybody's delivering the same thing, whoever gives it to me earlier which lowers my risk as a business, increases the value to me. That is a differentiator for a manufacturer. So I look at that problem of like, if I could take the time from the engineer's brain to making the thing almost zero, how much of the lead time of the entire process have I cut down? How much competitive advantage have I given that manufacturer?
I feel like when I hear this, and this is something that I have come to learn as well. Well, first of all, I have to make an aside that I love when can ask a guest one question and I get like 10 minutes. It makes my job super easy as an
Yeah.
interviewer. So I appreciate that.
Sorry.
I always appreciate that. No apologies whatsoever. But I feel like it's this idea. I feel like there is a lot of, and rightfully so, a lot of resource and a lot of time and energy put into what ERP should we select? What
Mhm.
ERP should we go with? And that's valid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
almost what I'm hearing you say is to some extent, it almost doesn't matter because if your data isn't doing anything for you, you've just got a piece of software. You just have an ERP. Your ERP isn't really working for you, no matter what the solution is.
That's absolutely correct. It's like, it's the same with like, you use the analogy of a diet, right? All diets or most diets work. It's just which diet will you actually work, right?
Right,
Like, will you do the diet? And like, and the diet's the unsexy part, eating less than working out, moving more than you eat and all that kind of those unsexy things. The same thing with the ERP. It's like the unsexy part is getting the data right. So it actually has something to work with. And then that's the part that like most people don't want to do.
right. I mean, no, it is not because it's not, that's not going to, in a lot of cases, that is probably not going to sell the ERP. You're probably going to hear a lot more about AI. You're going to hear a
Mhm.
lot more about those sorts of features that are going to come into scheduling. I feel like is one that gets pushed a lot when you're looking at
Oh yeah.
investing in an ERP as those sorts of things. So the ERP isn't broken. It's the data that is coming into it that is broken, or it's at least incomplete. What is that? But let's kind of look into what that actually does. You've kind of touched on it a little bit already. When we talk to a lot of manufacturers, they know that there's a gap. Like they
Mhm.
understand that that gap exists, but what does the actual cost look like of that? How can you begin to put that cost on it on something that's beyond just the keystrokes?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a softer cost, right? It's like just like any kind of opportunity cost. It's harder to quantify. Just because it's harder to quantify doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And that's so there's like the idea of people people like things that are like they like sure bets, right? So if I'm paying the engineer this much money, I save half his time, then I save that half money. Well, actually, you don't. You still pay him no matter what. I mean, people don't realize that it's still a soft cost. It's quantifying it differently. It's just easier to measure. But at the end of the day, like what is the opportunity cost of like delivering 20 days late? I mean, and things like that. Those are hard things to measure. Now, if you order the wrong part, it's pretty easy measurement on that, right?
Right,
And that's
right,
so accuracy is something else we talk a lot about during with our marketing and such, which is a very valid one. If you order the wrong thing, if you tell the ERP the wrong thing, it will do the wrong thing very very quickly, and it will be very expensive. That's a pretty easy one to get, but it's that whole idea of like you invested money to make an improvement, but everything comes with a cost. And a lot of ERP implementations come with all the cost, including not just the cost of paying for the software, but all the implementation, all the disruption, all the change of that process, and don't always get the benefit. And I had a great statement about this, not to go on too long, but like everything that you decide to do any change you decide to make in a process is guaranteed 20% reduction in productivity. But not every change is a guaranteed upside.
right,
So, like, if you're gonna make an adjustment, you have to make sure that you're at least gonna make a 20% improvement. And I've
right.
seen a lot of ERP implementations that were 40% worse than they were when they started. And they compromised away all of the benefits that they were hoping to get because it was just too damn hard. And it's just like, let's get back to where we were before, which is probably at least 20% worse than it was when they started. And a lot of it stems from the fact that like these hard, unsexy pieces just are really hard to get done.
So, as we think about cost and what this cost of disconnected data looks like, you mentioned what an ERP usually costs, and it, yes, often is in that high six to seven figure range. There's no, we're not hiding our pricing or anything. CAD Talk typically is going to come in. You're not going to spend less than $15,000 on CAD Talk, probably US dollars, but somewhere in the $15,000 to $50,000 range is pretty typical
Mhm.
for CAD Talk and for that licensing. If, so that a little quick math in the head there, I mean, it's a fraction of the cost of the ERP. If that is such a important piece of this, of getting that data in, and CAD Talk does that, we believe well, and believe it does it very well, then what do you hear and what do you envision are kind of the blockers for someone not wanting to make that investment?
Yeah, I think it's just that they think of it like a kind of like a light switch instead of a dimmer switch, right? Or a binary. It's like, well, could I get the accuracy of the bill of material without it? Sure. I mean, you can. It just requires a lot of discipline. So you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it as being like you're hedging like a bet or a hedge, right? So you say, well, does it increase the having a tool increase the likelihood that that outcome will occur, or does it decrease, or is it neutral, or does it decrease it, right? Generally, depending on people to be consistent day in, day out, it's difficult. It just is. I mean, it's just that like the people are really creative, but they don't tend to be consistent. All right. And processes are hard to maintain. You got to think about all the overhead and everything it takes to maintain a process with people. You have to have SOPs and process in place and managers and to make sure people do the thing. It's like it's a huge overhead to make that. So yes, you could do that without it, right? It doesn't guarantee you're going to, and doesn't get, and if you don't implement correctly, it doesn't guarantee you're going to get it either. So it's like, but the difference is once that's set up, it is consistent and it does it every single time. That's the beauty of software. It just does it every single time, day or night. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't care. It just keeps going. And if you could, and if you could have basically buy an insurance policy that you knew that was actually going to be consistent, then why wouldn't you do that for something that you invested in? That's the core data. And people go, well, people say, well, like CAD Talk could be wrong too. I'm like, but it's consistently wrong, which is so much better than being sporadically right. You can fix consistently wrong. You can't fix sporadically right.
I think I go into having a background in sports and practice and all those sorts of things. Like that's where kind of my mind immediately goes of repetition of whether it's fielding ground balls, if you're a baseball player, or you're shooting free throws, if you're a
Yeah.
basketball player. It's those repetitions of if you watch yourself on film, if you're doing the same thing and you're able to continue to do that over and over in that process, you can have a coach come in and tell you, hey, adjust your elbow, or hey, your glove's pointing a little bit off from the first baseman. Make sure your glove's pointing toward the first baseman. You're
hmm
able to make those adjustments and be able to get that sort of coaching to be able to do that. That's how I feel like it often shows up. But I feel like it's something that it's hard to admit that something is consistently wrong because we want it to be perfect,
Yeah.
especially if you're in the world of engineering. You want it to be perfect, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I do. And I just to kind of just to kind of put a point on I love your analogy with the sports. Like, let's just kind of make a parallel there. Like, think about what we marvel about sports and like what most sports are: bowling, golf, archery, shoot, like all of these things, right? What the Olympics just came by, right? And how many sports are based on a human's ability to do a consistent behavior over and over and over again? And then we marvel at the fact that they can do something consistently. Only the best in the world are the most consistent. Interesting.
It is. I
That's,
think about, and
yeah.
because those things that, you know, what does it take to do that? It's repetition. I mean, if you're a basketball fan, I promise you, yes, Steph Curry is a very gifted shooter, but I promise you that he puts up a ton of shots to
Mhm.
begin to become the best shooter that has ever graced the planet.
Oh yeah. And, and only the very best of the best who put that much work in can be considered consistent. And the software does it by default.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
that imagine, I think a great example of this is a kind of a random YouTube video. If you are familiar, you're probably familiar with Mark Rober.
Oh yeah.
Former NASA engineer. He's got a huge YouTube following. Does all these really neat things. Pretty recently put out a video where he created a robot goalkeeper that could stop any shot from Cristiano Ronaldo. And he put
Mm.
Ronaldo up against it, doing penalty kicks, doing all these different things. And Ronaldo couldn't beat it, even though Ronaldo is one of the best 5 soccer players to have ever graced planet Earth.
Oh yeah.
It's
Exactly.
that
I mean, it's just really hard to beat something. Like, it's really hard to beat a machine at a consistency game.